So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. And today is Monday, November the 15th, 2021. And our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And press 1. That puts you in the queue to talk to us. And we love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. And while we're waiting on Michael to get dialed in, Susan, I'm going to turn your microphone back on. And just want to add in to what Magda said and what Dr. Tim said, and that is, there is no doing it wrong. When you're breathing, the breath knows what to move. And, I would offer maybe you're trying too hard instead of just allowing the breath to do it and letting go of doing it perfect, letting go of, this isn't the way they want it to be done or whatever, and just breathe, and the breath takes care of everything. And I've had so many different experiences with StillPoint Breathing. Sometimes it's, like a whole story. And then other times it's like Magda said, it's just total quiet and peace. And sometimes I don't realize I've stopped breathing until I take that next breath. It's like, totally unaware of it. And then sometimes I felt like I've gone through a breath session and never really went into StillPoint. And that's okay, too, because the breath is what moves. And just trusting that. And I appreciate your willingness. I appreciate your support. You're staying with it. And, you're awesome being on our support team. And we are so appreciative of you.
Thank you so much, Jeannie.
Yeah.
Well, you guys pour yourselves out for us. And you gave us this wonderful session the other day. And it's just going to go better next time. And I don't mean it's right or wrong, but that it's just going to go better. I'm just going to melt into it and not fight it so much. I don't know what the heck I'm doing fighting it.
Yeah. And, that possibly is that unconsciously that something is going to come up if you totally let go. And so, it's not a conscious thing that, I'm not going to relax into it. I'm not going to let that happen. But we do that. And, the body has a memory. And so it might be a body thing that comes up. I've had some breath sessions and it's like challenging to lay still because it's like, maybe my hips hurt or my legs are nervous or, get this jerkiness or whatever. And there's some people that actually, when they're doing a breath session, that they're, they start wiggling and moving and turning and twisting and we'll instruct them, to take a breath and to lie still and take the breath to, if it's the legs, or the hips or whatever, take the breath into that part of the body and let it go. Because then when we start wiggling and stuff, then that will keep the energy from moving where it wants to move. It's kind of like locking it in. And so it's, sometimes I've had experiences of it's just an all-body experience. And then other times it's been, the going to that deep place. And probably, I've been with Michael since 2003. And, sometimes it's just totally different. There's no breath session that I've had that's the same. And just being with it, and probably, even though I've been doing this work since 2003, probably just in the last 2 or 3 years, or maybe even just since we've been kind of locked in with COVID, and Michael and I've been doing a lot of work with each other, probably the best breath sessions and the best realizations have come within this last year and a half.
I know Michael said something similar. He said, even after all this 40 years or 50 years of doing the work, he's having more ahas and realizations and more growing in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
That's both a challenge to hear and encouraging.
Yeah, so it's like, the other is paving the way for the big.
Yeah.
Is how I look at it. Go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to say, one of the things that I've seen the last year and a half, 2 years is, for me, aside from the new depth of personal work, is a whole new level of understanding, or maybe it's not even understanding, of the ability to, in the StillPoint session we did on Saturday, I talked about truth being what is in the actuality and allowing it to come in and restructure you, reform you. And so for me, my comprehension of the actuality of what's truly going on, as opposed to my belief systems that, were formulated from genes and experience and all of that, the last year and a half has been monumental in being instructed on that, receiving instruction on it, and grasping it, if it's even accurate language for it.
Grasping actuality?
Yes. Feeling like in the last year and a half, I've had a deeper insight into the actuality of the created world rather than my perceptual constructs. I've been able to advance my ability to collapse my perceptual constructs on a deeper level and be with what is. That's kind of how I would express it anyway, though there aren't really words to accurately describe it.
No, but that's fantastic that you could do that. To be with that and have no reactions, nothing's triggering you. You're just observing it, right?
Observing it and well, let me give you an example. And I think you were on the show when I talked about it when it first happened. This goes back, I don't know, maybe a year ago. And I was dealing with the idea of genetic cleaning up of generational patterns. And I mean, I literally, beyond anything that my mind could conceive of, I literally was shown an uncountable, unfathomable number of people in my bloodline, and shown that each of them was a light. It was like, I mean, I literally was looking, it was like my eyes were pointed downward, my eyes were closed, I'm breathing, and in looking downward, I can see this uncountable number of lights, and those lights were just specks in the mass of darkness. And having a comprehension of the amount of suffering that was there, and being instructed on how to, or even if it's a how to, but really being able to breathe and open myself to embrace that generational suffering and, let it pass through me, let it be transmuted through me. And I think and part of that, what I comprehended out of that, when they talk about Yeshua in the Garden of Gethsemane, and they say, he took on the suffering of the world. I don't think he took on the suffering of the world. He chose to be the space of active love and process the energy of suffering at that level. And so for me, it was like, okay, so I can join him in doing that. We can each become individuals who choose to, and it's not even like, it's hard to even put into words. We haven't got this in common experience, so aren't really words. So I'll use approximate words, but to really be able to invite those people to yield up their suffering and grasp it, hold it, comprehend it. I don't even know what words to use, and let the energy of that pass through me, to hold a space of love for that to pass through me. And that was like just, I've talked for years about changing genes and genetic. It was a vision. It was definitely a vision. And it's opened me to a new level of being the space to be able to process those things. Our definition of processing being the ability to hold love conscious, active, and present when something less than love comes up, rather than what my old pattern was to get stuck in it and lost it. Oh, all this pain, all this suffering, oh my God, oh, this is so terrible. That was my past, to make it personal, to make it mine, and to get stuck in it, to let it move from, okay, here's an energy, and move into a perceptual construct that became mine and about me, to not needing to do that, but just to be with that energy and not have to figure out what it was about, but just be the space for it. There's one example, at least the best way I can explain it. And I think, and it fits to me at this point, the thought that Paul spoke about. He says, whether in or out of the body, I knew not, for I saw things which I could not utter. And I'm trying to utter things that I don't really have words for. I'm approximating. I'm talking around it, but but I'd say that's one of the delineation points, was instead of having to construct it out of my BS, my belief system, my past, my history, was just to literally, and there was a piece of it as I think about it, because I'm going back now more and more and kind of remembering it, and what I had to do physiologically to do it. There was a physiological process involved, and I'm kind of tapping into that right now, of noticing the tensions in my body that held on to that, and really allowing my breath to go through. Like right now, I can feel this tension in my hands as I pay attention and speaking, so it's not as attentive as I would be if I were just breathing, but to just let that tension go in my hands, to let the tension go in my chest, in my gut, in my legs, in my buttocks, literally letting that go, to just uncover and be with what's beneath it, rather than, and it seems that if I hold my breath, if I tighten into it, then I can turn it into a construct, then something in my mind, and now I've got this to deal with. But moving to a different place of softening and opening on a physiological level to allow that energy to move.
When did this happen, Michael? Recently, you said, right?
That was probably sometime, I'm not even sure, sometime in the last, I actually talked about it on the show the day that it happened. It's within the last year. Less than a year, I think.
I remember.
Something like that. But what's so present for me, and as I'm being present to it, it's my understanding of it, or my grasp of it's expanding. If the starting point was the visual, to just see that darkness and those specks of light in it, and now moving into, I'm purposely, consciously breathing in and softening on a tissue level to grasp it in a new way, to hold the energy, to hold the space for it in it's still a different way than I did back then.
So you're using this as your meditation ongoing, by the sound.
I haven't particularly thought about that. I mean, from time to time I do. I haven't particularly thought about it in a while, but in this conversation that was an example that came up, and I'm really seeing that I do need to spend more time with it. Jeannie and I did a StillPoint session the night before last, and touched into some early childhood things, like 2.5, 3 years of age. And I can see that in that space it would be beneficial to remember, to reconnect with that experience and be with it on still another level, instead of turning it into something that becomes my construct, my pain, my trauma, and or my deficiency, or my weakness, or my hatred, or my fear, or suffering, whatever. And I can go back. Actually, when I was working on the book you've heard me talk about, that is now called "The 11 Most Important Words Ever Spoken," or at least that was what it was called originally. And as I was working on that book, I had a memory surface when I was about 5. I think I was about 5, and I'm working on this book, and I do a StillPoint session, and the memory that comes up, when I was around the age of 5, my bedroom was right across from the bathroom in our house. I could see the bathroom door from my bedroom, and what I realized, and this would be more a perceptual construct that I had to process through compared to what I'm understanding and doing with it now, but the thing that changed the title of that book, because it really is an instruction on ending suffering, was that I'm breathing away and I touch into being about 5, and I've got an asthma attack going on. That was the story of my life until I was 25. And I've got an asthma attack going on, and I need to use the bathroom, but I don't have enough breath in me to even get out of the bed to move the 15 or 20 feet that I would have had to move to get to the bathroom. And I realized at 5 the level of suffering that was for me.
Wow.
And that's what changed the title of that book. Up till then, the working title of that book was, the 11 Most Important Words Ever Spoken, where Yeshua gives the protocol for being a human. and then it explains it as a protocol. You must have Rahman when you think of the Creator, neighbor, in order to maintain self. And then he says, upon this hangs the law and all its prophets. I guess it's 9 words. And you look at, what he's saying is, their question is, what's most important to human life? He explains not to love your neighbor, love God as yourself. He explains that you've got to have Rahma in your mind when you think of the Creator, when you think of neighbor, and by doing so you maintain awareness of self, the truth of who you are. The gateway for human life to show up in your form is open. And then he explains why that's so important. For upon this hangs everything. It's like if let's say somebody has a medical problem and they find a doctor that specializes in that medical problem and has a protocol. Here's the protocol. First you do this, then you do this, you do this, do. Here's what it takes. And you go to that doctor and you pay his consultation fee and he gives you the program and gives you all the stuff you need. And you go and say, hell with it, I'm not going to do that. That's too much work. Well, the result, it's the protocol. It comes before the result. And what Yeshua is saying there is, this is the protocol to being human. And, for 2,000 years, people have been running around trying, I'm going to love my neighbor. I need to love my neighbor. Oh, boy, do I need to love my neighbor. And for people with hostility and fear, that's totally, completely, 1,000% impossible to love your neighbor. There are all kinds of scams and conversations about it, but the truth is, if I have some kind of rage or fear or hatred in me, I set up a field. I'm going to have someone, a neighbor, who's going to show up and bring that up. And when I'm in denial and dissociation, and I project that rage into my brain's image of them, rage is just taking over my mind. There's not going to be love of neighbor. And he's saying, which means I lose my human life. If I'm not functioning as love in the presence of anyone, I've lost my human life. So that's what he's saying. Upon this hangs the law and all. Everything you read. Like, don't even pick the book up until you get that one, because that's the protocol. That's the protocol to how to read the scriptures and understand them sanely. Otherwise, everything that people read, why have we got 32,000 different sects of Christianity? Everybody who hasn't understood or applied that protocol, they think they're reading the book, but what they're reading is what the book stimulates in their minds, and they make up stories and theologies based on what's going on in their minds. And most of it's projection. because the protocol isn't there. The precursor to all of it, to human life, having love present, isn't there. First order of business. So when I talk about have that memory of being 5 and remembering that suffering, that's where pain in my structure came up and was turned into a perceptual construct, and that experience, I mean, that was actually just before I met Jeannie, so it's 18 years ago. And now I've been able to allow generational suffering, like light years beyond that was like minuscule. And instead of turning it into something perceptual, to just be with it, soften in the presence of it, breathe through it, and transmute it. Bring healing to it, bring love in the presence of love, allowing that energy to move. And that's where the healing process occurs.
And are you experiencing those points of light as just your ancestry as a huge presence, or are there individuals presenting themselves?
There were no individual personalities presenting themselves, but what I understood is I mean, literally, as I'm breathing, I turn my eyes downward, and I can see this enormous black space and spots of light. And what I understood was these are ancestors still lost and holding in darkness.
Wow.
And that I could literally breathe and invite that energy to move through me, to be transmuted through me. In essence, holding the space for that energy to be healed. And you'll recall that, 30-some years ago, and I've told this story many times, as I was looking for what's the key. Why does one person heal in the same room as someone else doesn't? Why does a woman who has a 12-year issue of blood out of this whole throng, why does one person experience healing and the rest of the throng didn't? And what causes that healing? And so what became clear to me is 2 things are required for healing to occur. Love has to be conscious, active, and present. That which is less than love and held in genes or in mind, body, has to be allowed to surface. When it surfaces, then there's this transmutation. And the transmutation I'm comprehending right now, the transmutation takes longer if I turn it into a construct in my mind, a perceptual construct, as opposed to bypassing that altogether and just allowing the energy to be there and to move. And when active love meets that which is less than love, that which is less than love dissolves. Diseases disappear.
Wow.
But if I turn them into something personal, then there's another level of work I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I went back to that 5-year-old experience, I had worksheets. I had a lot of work to do around that. When I did a lot of work around that when that opened up.
Mm-hmm.
And I go back to this event in the recent past with unfathomable, I mean, it was like, it would have been easy to just go into full weeping over it.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't that I needed to do worksheets on it. I didn't need to forgive it. I just needed to open and let the energy move through me. Let it process, rather than identifying with it, latching onto it, and making it mine or about me, or claiming it.
Mm-hmm.
The forgiveness process allows us to unclaim it.
And so, is that where the breathing comes in? That's where the allowing comes in?
Exactly. remember that breath is Ruka. What's Ruka Dakucha? The feminine elemental force in us that undoes the effects of our errors and teaches us the truth. We have free will. That's not going to be interfered with. But if I'm inviting, and to me, when we breathe, it's about inviting Ruka to move, then it doesn't matter if it was a genetic thing from 20 generations ago. That elemental force has the power in us to undo those energetic patterns. And then
that is so hopeful.
Explain the truth to us. Oh, this is how it works. So there's, you've heard me say many times, there are no teachers out here that have any value whatsoever. They can guide us back in, but the real teachers, that one in us, that's Ruka Dakucha. It's all about connecting that. Go back to Yeshua, and Yeshua says in the scriptures, you can deny me, but don't deny this one I've come to connect you with.
Right.
Because there's the teacher, and it's in the breath.
That is so hopeful, because we don't have to know particulars. We don't have to know a million gazillion individual people and their suffering. It can all it's like a chemical reaction or something. You add the element that's needed and it just dissolves it. Is that what
it happens? We don't have to figure it out. That's it. Notice the non-being mind. Our number one solution, the codependence intent. What is it? I have to figure this out. There's no figuring it out. Power in us much bigger than what our T-brains will ever comprehend. And we can invite and turn it over to that power instead of, well, I need to know every little piece and nook and cranny and bolt and nut, and I have to fix it all. No, I don't. I mean, not even conceivable to do.
All right.
But there's a power there if we'll trust, if we'll open to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just for information's sake, and I appreciate you continuing this conversation inquiry, because I'm, as we're speaking, really consciously, purposely opening more and more to that experience and letting the energy move. I mean, I'm literally focusing on different parts of my body, going, oh, there's some tension. Oh, just let my wrist go. Just let my hands go. Just, so just like keep it moving. And to the degree that we're willing to open to it, it moves.
Have you, maybe this is the wrong thing to do now, but have you written this down or recorded it in any way?
I've got a few notes that I made on it, yes. I did make some notes, but I haven't done any writing beyond that with it.
Wow. Well, what you told me helps me understand about this StillPoint breathing I was fighting you on so much this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It's a kind of just let things be. That Mind Shifter helped a lot too, just to say, I can sweetly breathe and swallow and have nasal drip, and so what?
And so what? Exactly. The energy, Ruka can do the work anyway. The breath will do its work anyway.
That's such a good thought.
Yeah, and I can let go of the need to put my mind in front of it and try to control it or fix it or figure it out or make it happen or whatever. I can just let go of it.
Mm-hmm.
No need to figure it out. And enter into the practice, I mean, also really something that's become a daily practice for me now in the morning is breathing, and really, I've talked about cultivating a relationship with love and really allowing my structure to feel that, to be with that, to physiologically feel that presence, and more and more I'm experiencing it as an energy moving in my so-called body. And enjoying it. It's just sweet.
You talked
the presence
about
of sweetness.
Nice. You talked about doing StillPoint breathing when you walk. Is it any different?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily. I wouldn't necessarily go into a full point StillPoint breathing session when I'm walking, but if I'm walking or doing anything and I notice some tension, some restriction, some pain, I can open my breath on another level rather than do the opposite and try to restrict it. I can open it and embrace the energy and let it move.
Okay.
So I wouldn't go into a full StillPoint breathing session while walking, but I can certainly use the StillPoint breath to just, if I notice tension somewhere, to keep the energy moving. So breathing with you.
Yeah.
And it's another thought that comes is in order to fully open to the breath, and I guess this becomes a trust issue, I've got to trust enough to let go, to let loose of control. Like, if I don't control this, then, something's going to go wrong. But to let that kind of thought go and trust that this breath knows where it's taking me and where it goes. And, I've just, over the years, worked with and breathed so many people with, anything you've heard on this show over the years, any kind of trauma that somebody's called in with, and whatever it is. I've watched people who've come, into the space in that tightness and that full-blown trauma, and watched the breath resolve it. It's just, it will resolve anything. Not if we're going to hold on and try to control it and go, well, I'll run this process. And there comes a point also when you do let go of the breath that the breath, and this is a really sweet space, the breath breathes you. You're not breathing anymore. The breath takes over and breathes you. And that's another level of sweetness. And right now, with the way you've been, I keep drawing my attention back to my structure. The energy for me right now that's moving in my arms and my chest is just monumental. So thank you for that, guiding that process with your questions and your thoughts.
You did it. Wow.
That's awesome.
I want to be open to all that.
You might want to go back in the Course in Miracles and read the section on the development of trust.
Okay.
That might be useful and helpful.
Is that a title of part of the text?
Yeah, it's a title. That's the title of a section. I don't remember exactly where it is, but there's a section on the development of trust.
Okay, I can look it up. That's a big one.
That is a big one for sure.
Michael, my daughter's ex-husband has a great need to read your book, says me. And I have been having fantasies of how to get it to him anonymously without him having to trace it, being able to trace it back to me. The man has been dating different women, and each relationship crashes in the same way over and over and over again, because he falls in love with them, or he wants to be with them, and then he blows up at them and they leave. Or he throws them out because he gets so mad at them that he can't tolerate their presence. And it has happened so many times, and yet because it keeps happening, he has gotten thinner and thinner. He needs another neck operation, and it's coming up in December. He's got terrible neck pain. Talk about pain in the neck. I mean, that's a phrase that comes down my bloodline, and here's my son-in-law, ex, having pain in the neck. I mean, it doesn't even go through the bloodline zigzag.
Yeah, my take is he's never been angry with any of these women, but he's experiencing the physiological effects of his own rage.
Yeah.
The development trust is in the teacher's manual.
Oh, okay.
First, they must go through what might be called a period of undoing. This need not be painful, but it is usually so experienced. It seems as if things are being taken away, and it is rarely understood initially that their lack of value is merely being recognized. So someone who is locked into their goals and not willing to cancel a goal for anything is going to experience exactly what you're describing your son-in-law experiencing, tremendous trauma. Because
over and over and over again.
If he thinks, well, my life, my happiness, my whatever depends on having this, then there's a goal that just keeps the process going. So it's a powerful section.
Okay, thanks. I'll look it up.
Sweet. Any other thoughts for you?
Oh, I don't think so. Although, wait a second, and there might come one. But no, go on ahead with your program. That's great. I have enough to chew on. I'll be listening.
Well, I join you in gnawing on the bones.
That's what's happening. Yeah, a lot of gnawing.
I understand. I hear you loud and clear. Been gnawing for a long time. And, if we gnaw without tools, it's crazy making. If we have the tools and we start gnawing on something, say, oh, yeah, well, instead of me, wrestling with this in my mind, what if I cancel the goal and let this energy process? What if I turn it over to Rika and I trust? Things move on a whole other level. So
good to remember.
Very cool. Yep, for sure. And just a thought that comes, the inclination comes to share with you the thought that, for the, 3 years or so you've been doing the show, doing your work, communicating with what's going on, is I listen to the things that you and Tim are doing. And then I listen to your judgments that you put on yourself. And I would invite you to step into a space in trusting in your own goodness. I mean, I hear how you care for people. I hear how you support people. I hear what you're doing with refugees and children, and time to trust to accept and trust in your own goodness rather than being stuck in the power person messages that were delivered to you that are invalid.
That's good. That's good advice. I know just what you're talking about. Just let things go now. It isn't even.
All that other stuff is just stuff.
It's curious
Trust
to me.
in your goodness.
Why is it? I mean, I could tell you that I had a wonderful childhood, lots of great opportunities. We were well cared for. Why is it that the few times where there was violence and the power person was in action, why does that stick in there so hard when so much else was so right? I mean, I'm alive, I'm thriving. It's got to have been really good for most of it. What is it about human nature that holds on to that old story?
I don't think it's so much. Yeah, I don't think it's so much human nature holding on to an old story. Remember, we are energetic beings, and the amplitude of an energy is what counts. So, if there are 100 wonderful singing voices in the neighborhood that are singing at a whisper level, and somebody's screaming and raging, which voice are you going to hear? And there's where the forgiveness process allows you to literally, each time, when they said to Yeshua, well, how many of these worksheets do we need to do? How many times do we need to forgive anyway? And they ask him, is 7 times enough? And he says, no. In Aramaic, he says 77 times 70. And what he's saying is, this voice of trauma or pain in you is so loud that you may have to shave and shave and shave and shave a piece off 1,000 times before it reaches the intensity or the amplitude of all of the other voices.
That is such an amazing way to put it.
Deleting it altogether. And each time you forgive, it's like you weaken that which you've applied forgiveness to as an energy pattern within your structure. And, the child who's in the space of tenderness and not perceiving as we perceive as adults, it's easy for that child to misperceive. That's one of the reasons why, the adult really needs to be on guard that they're functioning as love, and they refuse to slip into hostility and fear. But because the child can take just one little incident and perceive it, if there's a particular type of suffering in their genes, and this event happens and it resonates within their genes, one little slip that the adult thinks, oh, that's meaningless, can become a whole life trauma for that child. Right up into adulthood, because they're not perceiving what happened. Here's somebody who's now 30. They're not perceiving what the 2-year-old experienced happening. As a 30-year-old, they're experiencing what the 2-year-old experienced. And what the 2-year-old, what that experience resonated in the child of 2. And it can be monstrous. And to me, that's one of the reasons why we want to be so on guard with children and keep opening the space for those trauma energies to open and be processed, even if we need to look at something bigger in ourselves. And, if you think of the proper interpretation of the kingdom of heaven as the kingdom of expansion, is to keep that child opening and expanding into greater and greater spaces, rather than with some form of hostility or fear, close them down on it, shut them down. But to keep opening the space, it's so urgent because the child is so impressionable, and whatever's in the genes can be activated so readily. And if something is activated in the genes of a child, to be there to support them being able to process it rather than get lost in it, rather than turning it into a perceptual construct of the moment, to be with them, to keep opening the space and to keep moving through it so that the energy can be processed and they can be freed of it.
Boy, you do see that a lot with the refugee children. They've been through a lot and it's not even sometimes within their own families, but they come. One little boy was very, very traumatized when he first got to us, and he gradually got used to us and was opening up. Then his mother took him to Afghanistan to visit some months ago, and he came back and he had regressed back to this terrified little kid again. I don't know what he saw over there. Anyway, he's beginning to come back to us again, but they are so vulnerable.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And so vulnerable and so prone to misinterpretation based on what an event resonates out of their genes, out of their generational history.
Yeah, and that makes it so powerful.
Yeah.
It isn't just them. Yeah.
So important to be the space. So I hold the space for that young man to open. And have you talked to him about canceling goals yet?
He's 3, and he's not talking yet.
Okay.
Which is interesting. He's a tiny, tiny fellow. He just hangs onto his mother's skirt and hides and peeks out at us. And I guess, he's coming around. He's beginning to play with cars and leave his mother for periods of time to sit at a little table where he can play with Play-Doh and do little projects. But he's too small yet.
Sure, I understand. Although, Ari is 3, and one of the things we're able to explain to her is, so notice that you want something and you're not getting it, so I see you're being in a state of upset. And, stop and look at all the wonderful things that are possible here, and this one thing, because you've got a goal, you're creating trauma around it, and you could let go of that goal and you could focus on something different. You could cancel that goal and have something different. So it's a slow process. A conversation I've had many times with her, and she's developing the brain cells. I look forward to the day she turns and says, "I'm upset about that, Papa, but you know what? I'm going to cancel that goal." I look forward to the day she turns to me and says that.
Yeah. Well, she's amazing. She's fully in her language. That's wonderful that she's talking so much. That's great.
I am always just, her use of words. I mean, 3 times a day, Jeannie or I will turn to the other and say, "What child of 3 knows the meaning of that word?" What? And I think her, having sign language, and that might be something you could work with this little guy with his sign language, because when, the verbal part of the brain isn't developed yet, the communication can still be there, just doing simple sign language. I think that was a really important part of her development, and that the reason she's at the place where she is at 3. And, Amazon has a little set of cards. You can order flashcards with the signs on it. We've got a set of those, and every once in a while, Ari will go over and say, "Let's do some sign language," and pull them out and learn a couple more cards and review some of the old cards. So it's pretty cool.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. I'll ask the head of the little department we have. We have a woman who sets up the programming. She's wonderful. She's an artist and has all these projects going. I must have saved 100 toilet paper rolls, Michael. These wonderful little toilet paper rolls from this Who's the Crap company. They're very sturdy, white inside and gray outside and sturdy. So they're making all sorts of little people out of them over there. But I'll ask her. I'll ask her about flashcards. That's a great idea because it's universal, isn't it? Or is it I suppose it's
Yeah,
English
it's absolutely
based,
universal. You can be no. It the sign for house is the same if you're in China or you're in America or wherever it is. It's every word.
Fantastic.
The sign is the same. So I mean, literally, when you know sign language, you can go anywhere in the world and speak sign language.
Is this a special kind of flashcards?
Oh, it's just I'll send you a link. We bought them on Amazon. For sure, with Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, thank you, Michael. Good session.
Awesome. Appreciate you a lot.
Thanks. Appreciate you a lot too, you guys.
All right. You have a blessed one.
Thanks.
All righty. Bye-bye. Well, Miss Jeannie, we've got about 10 minutes left. We haven't even read the book yet.
There's no other hand up. I know. Go for the book. No hands are up right now.
Okay. I will do it. Just give me 1 second here. Okay. So why is this happening to me again, and what you can do about it? We are still on the chapter with the has-been, looking at the mind holding everything that it holds from the past. And we've just gone through the key thought that when I lay claim to the quote-unquote evil in ourselves, by the way, the word evil relates in the Aramaic to the word sin, and sin, if you remember, is an archery term. When you fire at the target and you miss the bullseye, the scorekeeper would yell sin. If you miss the target altogether, the scorekeeper would yell evil. It's just, when we're off target totally, then that's when the word evil is used. But when we lay claim to those energies that are so far off the mark in ourselves, those energies can be forgiven. We then no longer need fear. It's occurring outside of our control. In other words, as creators, if there's a particular energy that we hold, we will tend to create with that energy. If it's off the mark, then we're going to draw situations and circumstances that will be off the mark. When I can hold that energy, when I can access that energy in myself and throw it away, it's no longer there to be a resonating influence that draws experiences to me. And so, in essence, what we're suggesting here, talking about the has-been, waking from the has-been, it's literally waking up from becoming conscious and aware beyond everything that's happened in the past. And Richard's been, is acknowledging that, how he would tend to get lost. And in particular, he had gotten stuck in this idea of being stupid. And that as he processed it, he went into overwhelm and confusion. And so breathing allows the overwhelm and confusion to pass, and he can, instead of being lost in those feelings, the traumas, the pain of that thought disorder, and feeling powerless over it, there's the ability to breathe and just stay conscious, process through it. And he's starting to build the brain cells for, that's actually possible. And so I acknowledge the work that he's done. Nice work. Yes, it is a process, and I think you just work through one of your demons, or what are sometimes called the dragons and Klingons. Richard, you're grasping this information quickly, and I'm glad you noticed it doesn't have to be heavy. It can be fun. It is the process of building the brain cells. It takes time to understand this information. And as you do this work and you review these ideas, you'll grasp new levels of meaning. Your understanding and insight deepens as you do that. Your natural brilliance, the brilliance that we were all created with, will shine through. Be patient with your learning process. And, sometimes because we've been habitually by our power person given messages of being less than or not as good as or what have you, there can be a tendency to get stuck in that process. And even if someone outside of you gives you true information about yourself that conflicts with the power person message, people can stay stuck in the power person message, and this is a good place to be able to to count on those outside of you to tell you the truth. And when it conflicts with self-limiting beliefs, to let go of the self-limiting beliefs, and to go, oh yeah, well, I always believed that lower thought was true about me, and you're telling me that's really not accurate. Oh, okay. I tell you what, I'm going to trust you on that, and to let go of the internal dialogue that says that it can't possibly be true. So each of us has this brilliance within, and it is a learning process. Let's look again at the way the mind works. All output must conform to whatever realities have been built into brain cells. Each reality the mind generates must match the pattern of what is in the has-been, in the mind's belief system. And, and sometimes you just have to get bigger than your belief systems. The mind formulates its output according to the content of brain cells. The secrets are not hidden in the mind, but they're hidden by the mind. It is the mind that sees, and it only sees images it generates. It only generates images for which it has brain cells and meaning. What's possible when we get past the insane, the loveless meanings that we've been trained into believing, Michael? Well, Richard, who knows? But from the records of spiritual giants of the past, things are going to be very different. Perhaps there's, quote unquote, a Garden of Eden available, but we don't let it enter. Have you ever watched how a child keeps coming back with love? Perhaps we did not get kicked out of the Garden of Eden, but gave up our natural created condition, love, in the world of our cultural training, and acting as though the insanities contained in the has-been were true. So we're here to invite everyone to let loose of everything based in hostility or fear in the mind, period. Every thought, every feeling, every mind structure based in hostility or fear is there because it's in the has-been, and it's time to just let go of it. How different could life be if we were freed from the past, from the has-been? If we came with fresh, excited, just like the exuberant child, fresh, excited aliveness to every event. How often does a child have to be kicked to learn to hate and fear? And all of those energetic patterns can be forgiven, can be removed. And that's what we're here to do, to remove them. And we're down to just the last couple of minutes, so I'm going to say thank you for joining us. And we'll see those who are in the Mind Shifters and StillPoint Breathing process on Wednesday night at 7 for that 2-hour closure session. And if you're interested in participating in that, or we've got a codependence, interdependence communication self-study. Oh, pardon me, that's right, Tuesday night at 7. Thank you, Jeannie. Yeah, we did shift that to Tuesday night. So So we'll look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Blessings.